Some people believe that every child grows up surrounded by love. But that wasn't Dosi's story. Long before she understood the meaning of pain, life had already begun testing her. Yet even in those difficult days, God was quietly preparing her for a future no one could stop. When Dosi was only 5 years old, her mother became seriously ill. Even though she was weak, she spent every moment she could teaching her daughter about God. She believed that one day those lessons would become Dosi's greatest strength. Before her mother took her last breath, she told Dosi never to stop praying. She said that whenever life became difficult, she should run to God before running to anyone else. Those words remained in Dosi's heart long after her mother's voice was gone. Not long after, Dosi's mother passed away. The little girl could not understand why her world had suddenly become so quiet. She missed the warm hugs, the bedtime prayers, and the gentle smile that had always made her feel safe. Although he was heartbroken, Dosi's father did everything he could to raise his daughter well. He worked hard every day and reminded her that God would always remain their greatest helper. After some time, Dosi's father remarried. Everyone in the village hoped the new wife would become a loving mother to the little girl. Unfortunately, things turned out very differently. At first, the new woman pretended to be kind. She smiled whenever Dosi's father was around. But whenever he left for work, her smile disappeared. She treated Dosi as though she did not belong in the house. As the years passed, the woman gave birth to 2 children of her own, a boy and a girl. Instead of becoming one happy family, her jealousy only grew stronger. She wanted every good thing in the house to belong only to her own children. Even though Dosi was often treated unfairly, she refused to become bitter. Every morning before leaving home, she prayed. Before eating, she prayed. Before sleeping, she prayed. Prayer became her safest place. At school, Dosi remained hardworking and respectful. Her teachers admired her discipline, and many people believed she would one day become successful. But every compliment she received made her stepmother even more jealous. The years passed quickly, and Dosi remained focused despite everything she endured at home. She completed her secondary school education with excellent grades, making her father proud. Deep inside, she believed her late mother's prayers were still speaking over her life. Not long after, the good news arrived. Dosi had gained admission into the university. She held the admission letter tightly against her chest and thanked God with tears of joy. She could finally see the future she had prayed for since she was a little girl. Her father celebrated the news and couldn't hide his happiness. He told friends and neighbors that his daughter would one day become someone great. But while everyone rejoiced, one person silently burned with jealousy. The stepmother could not bear the thought of Dosi becoming successful. She convinced herself that if Dosi went to the university, she would become more successful than her own children. Jealousy slowly turned into hatred, and hatred gave birth to a dangerous plan. While waiting for school to resume, Dosi found a small job in town. Every day she worked honestly, saving every naira she earned to help with her university expenses. She believed that God would bless the work of her hands. One evening, after closing from work, Dosi ate dinner before heading home. She had no idea that while she was away, someone had prepared a deadly meal and carefully placed it inside her room, hoping it would become her last supper. When Dosi got home, she was surprised to see a neatly covered plate of food waiting on the small table in her room. No one had ever served her food like that before. She found it unusual, but she simply thanked God for the meal and decided to eat later because she was already full. Hours later, hunger finally came. As always, Dosi bowed her head before eating. She thanked God for his provision and asked him to bless the food before her. She had no idea that this simple habit of prayer was about to save her life. The moment she uncovered the plate, something immediately caught her attention. The food looked unusually dark, and its appearance was completely different from when it had been prepared. A strange feeling settled in her heart, and she knew she could not eat it. Instead of ignoring what she had seen, Dosi carefully covered the food again. She thanked God for protecting her and decided to show it to her father the following morning. Without realizing it, she had just escaped death. Early the next morning, Dosi carried the plate to her father. She calmly explained everything she had noticed and asked if he could examine the food. Her father looked at it carefully, and his face immediately became serious. Her father gathered everyone in the house and demanded to know who had prepared the meal. One after another, every person denied knowing anything about it. The room became silent, and no one could explain how the food had ended up in Dosi's room. Without clear evidence, Dosi's father could not accuse anyone. He simply threw the food away. Although the mystery remained unsolved, Dosi knew in her heart that God had rescued her from a trap she never saw coming. The failed plan only made the stepmother more determined. She quietly promised herself that if poison could not destroy Dosi, she would find another way to remove her from the family forever. After the failed poisoning, Dosi's stepmother refused to give up. She began looking for another way to destroy the young woman's future. This time, instead of attacking her body, she decided to attack her reputation. One afternoon, money suddenly disappeared from the house. Without any evidence, the stepmother immediately accused Dosi of stealing it. Although Dosi denied the accusation, no one was willing to listen to her side of the story. Day after day, the stepmother filled her husband's ears with lies. She repeated the false accusations so often that Dosi's father slowly began to believe them. The trust that had once existed between father and daughter began to disappear. When it was finally time to pay for university, Dosi gathered the courage to ask her father for help. But the man who had once celebrated her admission looked away and told her he could no longer support her. That night, Dosi cried more than she had ever cried before. Yet even through her tears, she remembered her mother's words. When life becomes difficult, run to God before you run to people. She knelt beside her bed and prayed until peace filled her heart. The following morning, Dosi packed everything she owned into one small traveling bag. Inside were a few clothes, her certificates, her Bible, and the little money she had managed to save from working. With faith in God and hope in her heart, she quietly left home. Dosi traveled to another state, where a close friend welcomed her into a small apartment. Life was far from comfortable, but she was grateful to have a safe place to begin again. To survive, Dosi accepted every honest job she could find. She washed clothes, cleaned houses, worked in restaurants, and did whatever was necessary. Every naira she earned brought her one step closer to her dream. Months of sacrifice eventually paid off. Dosi saved enough money to pay her university fees and begin her education. Walking through the university gate for the first time, she smiled because she knew God had made a way where there had seemed to be none. Dosi remained as hardworking in the university as she had always been. She studied tirelessly, trusted God through every challenge, and graduated with outstanding results. The dream others tried to destroy had finally become reality. After graduation, Dosi secured a good job. Years of discipline, honesty, and dedication opened even greater doors. The young woman who once struggled to pay her school fees gradually built a comfortable and successful life. Several years later, Dosi received heartbreaking news from home. Her stepmother had fallen seriously ill, and the family could no longer afford her medical treatment. Many people expected Dosi to ignore the news after everything she had suffered. Instead, she immediately traveled home. She arranged for her stepmother's treatment, paid every hospital bill, and made sure she received the best care possible. While her stepmother recovered, Dosi also cared for her younger stepbrother and stepsister. She made sure they had food to eat, clothes to wear, and everything they needed. She chose compassion over revenge because God's love had transformed her heart. When the stepmother became strong enough to speak again, she broke down in tears. She confessed everything she had done over the years, including the poisoned food, and begged Dosi to forgive her for all the pain she had caused. Without hesitation, Dosi forgave her. She explained that carrying bitterness would only keep the wounds alive. The same God who had protected her as a child had also taught her how to forgive completely. Seeing the love Dosi showed despite everything she had endured, her father was overwhelmed with regret. He apologized for believing lies instead of trusting his daughter. Dosi embraced him, and years of pain slowly gave way to healing. From that day forward, the family became whole again. Hatred gave way to love, jealousy gave way to gratitude, and forgiveness restored what bitterness had nearly destroyed. Dosi's life became a testimony that no evil plan can stop the purpose God has prepared for his children. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not escaping death, it is refusing to let hatred take over your heart. Dosi survived because God protected her, that she became truly victorious because she chose forgiveness instead of revenge. If God has given you a dream, hold on to him no matter what stands against you. People may delay your journey, but they cannot cancel God's purpose for your life. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17.